Hey, are you struggling with golfer's elbow? So here's exercises you can do not only to get rid of it, but also to prevent it from happening. Whether it's actually playing golf or whether it's lifting stuff in life, a lot of people have a flared up elbow, right? You start getting pain on the inside right here. Well, here's the thing. There's a number of things that you need to do, both with like shoulder mobility, strength in certain areas, with wrists, that will prevent it from happening and or make it stronger so it doesn't repeat itself. So check these out. So we gotta start with some soft tissue work. The things that are tight, so both on the inside and on the outside, and we can use things like a ball, I'll show you a couple drills, or like a battle star roller, foam roller. I like to even press down, get flexion and extension, right? We're just gonna work on those tissues. If you come to a spot that's like nice and spicy, just working it out. So for instance, right here, and I'm just gonna move, whoo! All right, so I can use different modalities to kind of tune that down. Also, lacrosse ball, I can find different spots. I can get into different angles. Once I'm there, I can move around and just get that tissue to kind of tune down a little bit before we start strengthening it. So many times, again, the shoulders might be the issue driving the problem. So this is another drill we can do is a pec minor stretch where I'm going to push into this and now I'm getting a stretch in my pec minor. But from there, I'm going to do head turns and head rotations. And just get a little bit more of that opening on that side. I'm pushing into it. And again, I can just get a little bit more rotation here, a little bit more stretch. Another option, another variation here. Again, pick and choose one depending on where you're starting. Is going neck circles with scapular depression. So I'm going to take all of this down, meaning shoulder blades back. I'm going to reach out with my fingertips as far as I can. And from there, I'm going to draw a circle with my chin, right? So I'm going to go down, tucking away, all the way up while I'm reaching. And you'll feel the stretch in the neck. Also, a lot of times you might feel a little bit of nerves, which is fine, right? As we extend everything down here. And we're just moving that. Easy thing to think about is about 30 seconds to 40 seconds per movement. So this one's a butterfly stretch. I'm going to put my hands behind my head. From here, I'm going to drive down as much rounding as possible here. Almost try to touch my elbows. And then drive out and open up. I try to use breathing here too. Not hold my breath. Same thing, I'm going to do that for 30 to 40 seconds. So these are called wall angels, and even if I can, again, depending on how good your external rotation is, you may not be able to touch the wall. So I'm going to put my butt up against the wall, walk myself out a little bit, put my head against it, and you can see that my left side doesn't really want to get there. But still, I'm going to pretend I'm doing a snow angel, doing a wall angel, and I'm driving that elbow in the back of my wrist to the wall, and I'm really feeling that upper back light up. Again, even if I cannot touch it, I'm actively driving, trying to touch it. And you're going to feel the backside of all your shoulders, your mid-back, lower traps really working. So now we got farmer's carries, but there's different variations to strengthen our grip. So our most baseline variation, crushing, this is important. Pulling a shoulder blade back, doing a farmer's walk, right, where I'm feeling every one of the fingers. What tends to happen is people grab it like this, but I want to have these two fingers at the end really crushing that as well. So good posture. We're just going to go straight walk, right, forward, backward, 30 seconds, maintaining that posture. From there, we can make it a little more challenging by marching on the spot. Right, same thing. Make sure we're gripping this equally. Okay, from there, we're going to go to pinch grip. So think pinch grip. I'm grabbing a plate. Same thing, right? Squeezing with all my fingers. Make sure it's equally squeezing, right? Every single one of the fingers is squeezing, and we're moving. From there, we can go spherical. So turning a lighter kettlebell upside down, grabbing it this way, challenges the grip in a different way again. Again, pulling that shoulder blade back, good posture, crushing, and adding some walking. I mean, you could just hold it, but adding some walking makes it a little bit more challenging and really trying, having the effort of squeezing. And last but not least, we have hook grip. So taking a heavier, I would say, plate, and just right here, you can see that hook grip, right? Again, trying to equally squeeze all of those and we're working. And what you would do is you'd pick 1 to 2 of these and work them for a week or 2 and then switch the variations. So we'd go obviously normal grip and then progress it to more challenging variations, 30 to 40 seconds each side, 2 to 3 sets, we're good to go. So these are variations of wrist flexion and extension as well with, loading it eccentrically. So I'm going to go through a whole bunch of these, starting with the locked out elbow. So I'm actually supporting myself because I want to make sure I'm kind of not cheating, compensating. And I'm letting it stretch me here, and I'm going to flex all the way up as hard as I can. You can see how my elbow wants to bend at the top, and then just control it down. All right, full range stretch. Same thing I was talking about earlier, making sure all the fingers are wrapped around. And then I would go, next variation would be a heavier. So imagine I got a heavier dumbbell or I'm going to do an eccentric. So I got a bent elbow, and I can even push myself down and resist, add extra load, and then coming back up normal, eccentrically. Really resisting it. And again, you could just take a heavier dumbbell on this and do the same thing. Okay. From there, the third one would be now going locked out elbow and doing that same, pretend that like eccentric, heavier load on the down, coming back up. From there, we're going to do same thing on this variation, locked out elbow, going into extension as high as I possibly can, let it stretch me. Right, and then we'd come in and have that elbow down, and this is like a heavier weight. This is too heavy of a weight for me when I go here. Heavier, and then just control it eccentrically, right? So I could actually help myself up into this position, and then control. This is challenging. Bring it back up. Control. And then the third one would be going extension with the locked out elbow again, heavy eccentric, right? And notice, you can see that extension is significantly harder than flexion, right? I'm weaker there, and we gotta strengthen that. So from those variations, then we can add, remember, you would be doing one of these for the full week or 2 before you progress it to the next one. This is a steel mace, but you could do this with a dumbbell, where the lower you go here, because the lever is longer, the higher up I come, the easier it is, or the less challenging it is. And I'm gonna lock myself down here, control it into that stretch position, and then bring it back, right? But notice I'm locking my elbow in and down, let it control into that stretch position, and then bring it back up. Control, so no momentum, right? We're really using strength and range of motion to get to those positions, get as much range as you possibly can, and bring it back up. And all of those, again, that's 30 to 40 seconds per side. You're only picking 1, maybe 2 exercises to do, and then you're progressing them as I showed. So here's a bunch of variations to progress, starting with quadruped wrist circles. So I'm going to be in my all fours position. The thing that's important here, though, is I like to spread my fingers and just have this equal distribution of weight, right? So you'll see a lot of folks, they'll kind of lean to the outside. I tend to say hey, pointy finger, push that knuckle into the ground, right? So I'm going to be here, driving that down, and then I'm going to get my body weight over and keep the elbows locked out and draw circles. Right? But I'm trying to have that palm down completely, and then I can just push it. Again, don't go past pain if it's uncomfortable. 3 out of 10 is fine. I can go the other way around. And I'm just challenging that mobility. You're going to feel a stretch there. Again, 30 to 40 seconds. So that's variation 1. From there, we're going to do lateral weight shift. Bring these, again, try to spread those fingers out. I'm going to go hands to the inside, and I'm going to shift. So the part I shift away from, the opposite hand, so my left hand now is getting that big stretch. And I can instantly tell my right side, obviously, phone fingers, we're right-handed. I got so much more restriction there. And that's the side that I have golfer's elbow on, right? So we're just shifting, keeping those elbows as locked out as possible, right? So everything's coming from the wrist. Again, 30 to 40 seconds. From there, we would challenge it a little bit more and do something called the bear. So with the bear, I'm going to get the load's going to come up because I'm going to bring the knees off the ground. So Same thing, quadruped, but now I got more load. And again, I'm gonna go shift forward, whoo, and coming back, right? Again, only do what you can handle, don't overdo it. Push every one of those fingertips, knuckles into the ground, so equal distribution. Elbows stay locked out. And number 4 on this one is now gonna be bare, but with circles, right? So I'm gonna go same mentality, spread those fingers out. But now I'm gonna go shift all the way to the edges again. And again, other side. Again, try to keep the elbows locked out here. 30 to 40 seconds. Last but not least on these is the different variations doing what I call pails and rails. Pails and rails means I'm gonna push into, so imagine I'm going into a stretch position. So I'm gonna go forward, my elbows are pointing forward. I'm gonna drive forward, I'm gonna feel that stretch in my forearms, and I'm gonna hang out here for about 30, 40 seconds. From there, I would start pushing my hands into the ground, hard as I can. Fingertips into the ground, increase the stretch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And from there, pretend that I'm trying to lift off. Obviously, I won't be able to, but try to lift it off. 10, 9, 8, 7, right? 10 seconds. Everything here is gonna light up because I'm trying to extend off the ground. After I do 10 and 10 seconds, I'm gonna go into a deeper stretch position and repeat for 2 rounds, right? And again, pick and choose where you are with these variations. Don't use all of them, use one of them, 30 to 40 seconds, a couple of sets. So these are gonna be band hammer curls, and we're gonna, again, strengthen with the grip and start with movement from the elbow. But first I wanna posture up, so think about almost like I'm flaring my lats here, right? Keep an abs brace. Notice what I did. I'm not going to collapse. I'm flaring my lats here, bracing, and then from there, right, moving from the elbow. And keeping that position of my shoulder blades locked in and down. And if I want to make it more challenging, I'm just going to grab it lower, create more band tension, right? And or less, same thing. And trying to make sure I'm not flexing from the shoulders, but I'm moving from those elbows. So this is the, I would say, wall clock with the band. And first I want to make sure that protract, right? So I'm going to push my shoulder blades into the wall. Sometimes you can see like stepping back a little bit like this might help. So I activate and engage that. And from there, I'm going to literally think about, right, 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10, 9, 8, 7. Try to keep that elbow locked out. And then you can either go back or switch them up. But notice, I want to make sure that I am pushing the wall, keeping that elbow locked out, right? And just, even if it's a short range of motion, really making sure that my form is on point. So this is the quadruped position band pull apart. So I like to put this knuckle down into the ground so I got a good position of my wrist. And from there, keeping that wrist straight. This is important, right? Don't let it collapse. I'm going to be opening up and pulling apart, right? And again, just adjust the tension. We want to keep that elbow nice and locked out, driving from that posterior shoulder, really keeping that wrist in check. So these are diagonal pull aparts. So think about, again, keeping that wrist straight, opening it up, and I'm going to go diagonal. And you can see here moving my wrist, right? I want to keep it neutral because that's what I'm working, that isometric as I move, keeping a good posture of the shoulder, pulling that shoulder blade down as I come up. And again, the wrist position is what's important here because many a times people just go and start pulling it apart, but their wrist might be in not that such a great position. I want to keep it neutral. So 3-way dumbbell curl, I'm going to go each direction. So first, hammer strength. Again, moving from the wrist, from the elbow, but keeping that wrist neutral. I like to do, 5 reps, for instance, for each one, and then go to here, supinated, palms up. Pinky, I also like to think pinkies up, making sure I'm squeezing with the pinkies. And then from there, going pronated, right, which is the most challenging, which is why you want to make sure you adjust load, but keeping that wrist neutral, right? So we're going to do that 3-way dumbbell curl. Again, we can do this for time, just switching up every 3 to 5 reps. So this is a bottoms up just iso hold from a press position, because again, I have to like really crush that bell, just stabilize that wrist. And after all that work, it's already more challenging. From there, we just do timed holds, and then we progress it to an actual moving press. But that would be the progression, where at the beginning, again, we would just start doing isometric holds, making sure that wrist is straight, crushing with every one of our fingers and holding for time. So this is the wrist roller, and this is like basically like a gym / home setup that you can do with the band, a kettlebell. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get pure flexion on this, right? And I'm gonna go and roll it as high up, and you'll see that eventually the weight / the bell is going to start coming off the ground. And I wanna have nice and controlled as it's coming up. And again, I can progress the load on this, just use heavier weights, and then control it down. And again, this is important, that I'm not just letting it rip, right? I'm actually controlling that and trying to get as much range of motion in my wrist. So if you zoom out, I can show you the setup, right? So I'll take this band off. I'd loop it around this kettlebell. You can see, right? I just loop it around the bell and then put it up on the edge of the barbell, get one loop around, and it's ready to go, right? And again, I can adjust that. I would start off doing this for time, 40 seconds. As I get stronger, I would just progress the load and bring it up. So you can do 2 to 3 exercises at the end of your warm-ups pretty much almost every day, right? For 1 to 2 sets, not doing too much. And or you can also add this to what I call weak link training, right? Working your wrists 1 day of the week, where you're adding in extra work, picking 2 exercises from each category. So you're gonna get about 6, 7 exercises here for a couple of sets, for 30 to 40 seconds. And you're gonna start seeing improvements, not only on your golfer's elbow and or preventing from it from ever happening, and just strengthening your wrist and elbow.